It's week 17 of the NFL, and we have 3 more best bets for this Sunday, and it all starts right now. Hey guys, it's Matt from GrandstandBetters.com, and Happy New Year to everyone out there. We kick off 2022 with 3 more bets in the NFL. Before we get to those, just a quick reminder, if you're new to Grandstand Betters, go ahead, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our picks and predictions in the new year. And while you're at it, smash that like button for us sweeping NFL Week 16 last Sunday and our Monday Night Football card. But without further ado, let's dive into our best bets for NFL Week 17. And the first game we're going to look at is between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Indianapolis Colts. This one in the 1 p.m. Eastern time slot. Colts are favored by 7. The over-under set at 44.5. Now, the Las Vegas Raiders come into this game just sitting outside the playoff race in the 9th seed, but very much alive after a win last week against the Broncos, 17-13. The Raiders have now won 2 in a row. Derek Carr and the 5th best passing offense in the NFL has really been what's led this team and put themselves in a position to make the playoffs. Carr now has 4,300 yards on the season, which is actually a career high for him. Many thought after Ruggs left the team that his numbers may dip, and they did a little bit, but Hunter Renfrow has just been a beast out there and will likely eclipse the 1,000-yard mark this week. However, last week, the difference of the game was their rushing attack. Josh Jacobs finally had a 100-yard game, and the team actually accumulated 160 yards on the ground, a huge number considering that they've only been averaging about 90 yards with their rushing attack per game. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what route the Raiders go this week against a very good or very average to good defense in terms of yardage given up, as they are in the middle of the pack. Indianapolis is in all defensive categories with the exception of scoring. Colts are nearly a top 10 scoring defense, and that can be attributed to their turnover margin, which is second best in the NFL. Now, if you look at the Colts offense, Carson Wentz, he did look doubtful in playing this week with COVID protocol, but it does look like the Colts might have lucked out with the CDC changing their recommendations and the NFL immediately implementing those changes. So we will, I think, see Carson Wentz back on Sunday. We're going to go forward expecting him to be playing in this game and starting. So we give that pick out, or this pick out, with the assumption he will start in place of Sam Ehlinger. Now, if the Colts want any shot at the AFC South, he better be out there because he has led this team to winning 6 of the last 7 games played. And they've been extremely efficient on the year, where he has throwing 3,200 yards and 25 touchdowns with only 6 interceptions. Now, the Raiders have a very good secondary, only allowing 219 yards through the air per game. But let's be honest, the Colts are in a position to make the playoffs because of one guy, and that one guy is MVP candidate Jonathan Taylor. Now, this guy has rushed for 1,600 yards and has 17 touchdowns, and they are the reason the Colts are second in the league in rushing at 154 yards per game. If you want to make a case for Taylor even more to be the MVP, this guy has 900-yard rushing games on the season. Now, the offensive line should get a little bit of credit for this as well, but if you look at the Colts this week, they should rush Taylor 25-plus times at least against a bottom-half rush defense that the Raiders have. So what are we betting in this game? Well, we're a little hesitant to back the Colts -7, especially since they are 4-4 at home against the spread, and the Raiders really need this game to stay in the playoff race. If you look at the Colts offense, they are the 5th highest scoring offense in the league with 28 points per game despite all the rushing they do. The Raiders, as we saw last week, they will lean on Jacobs when they are ahead. However, we do expect them to be down in this game and have to air it out more than they've hoped to from their expectations going into this game. But expect Derek Carr to throw 30-plus times, and for the Raiders and the Colts to have some playoff energy in this one, and for there to be some points. So with the first pick of NFL Week 17, we're going to take the Raiders and the Colts over 44.5. With our second pick of Week 17 of the NFL season, we're going to look at the AFC matchup between the 8-7 Miami Dolphins and the 10-5 Tennessee Titans. This game also in the 1 p.m. Eastern time slot. Titans are favored by 3.5 in this one, and the total's very low at 39.5 points. Now, after that victory last week over the Saints, the Dolphins are now in the 7th seed, the last wild card spot of the AFC, and they have a chance to make the playoffs, but they do have one of the hardest schedules remaining this week against the Titans and next week against the Patriots. Their defense has been part of their success on this 7-game win streak that they're on. Beside the Jets, no other team has put up 10 points or more against them, and they now rank 15th in the NFL in yards given up per game. Their secondary behind Howard and Needham have been very good. They've been able to force a lot of takeaways, which has given their offense great field position, and that's been very good for Tua. Now, that is much needed for that Dolphins offense and the playmakers they have on offense, because they still rank 24th in the NFL in yards per game and 21st in points per game. Tua has shown signs or flashes of being dynamic at quarterback that he can be, but he's still inexperienced and his decision-making is still in need of some improvement. He only has 15 touchdown passes on the season with 9 interceptions. The Dolphins have been able to put up 20 points in their last 6 games, but they're facing a very good Titans defense this week, one that's ranked 2nd in the NFL in rushing yards given up per game. Just last week, they held the 49ers to only 83 yards on the ground. Now, stopping the run against the Dolphins is going to be a priority in this one, because that will force Tua to throw the ball against a Titans secondary, which ranks 10th in the NFL in interceptions. On the other side of the ball, if you look at the Titans, they're going to still be without Derrick Henry, but A.J. Brown has returned to the lineup, and he was a problem for one of the better secondaries last week against the 49ers. He had 11 receptions for 134 yards. Now, we are going to repeat ourselves here as we talk about the Dolphins' schedule, because you have to take it into consideration. Although the Dolphins have won their last 7 games, they've played the Jets twice, the Giants, the Texans, the Panthers, and a depleted Saints team in which Ian Book had to start. Those teams have a combined 62 losses on the season. They do have a nice win over the Ravens, but a few weeks before that, they lost to the Jags and the Falcons. Now, the Titans have had a much harder schedule and are still managing to win without the best player on their team. With Indianapolis now giving them a run for their money in the AFC South and a chance to clinch the division in this game at home, the Titans are in a very good position in this game to win and give their starters a nice needed rest before the playoffs in Week 18. Although this is a must-win game for the Dolphins to secure the very close run for wild card in the AFC, we're going to go with the more tested team here. So with the second pick of NFL Week 17, we're going to take the Tennessee Titans minus 3.5. Now, we end Week 17 in the NFL with Sunday Night Football between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. Packers favored in this one by 13 points. Over-under is set at 42.5. Packers coming into this one as the number 1 seed in the NFC with a chance to clinch home field advantage throughout the playoffs this week. They've won 4 in a row, and again, Aaron Rodgers in the discussion for MVP along with Taylor and Cooper Kupp. There's good reason, too. He's had 3,600 passing yards and 33 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions on the season. Now, on a side note, personally, we think Kupp or Taylor are more deserving, but his numbers have been great. In our opinion, the one thing that does stick out that makes it a little hard for us to maybe go against him in the MVP race is his turnovers. 4 INTs to 33 touchdowns is just an unbelievable year. Now, the Green Bay Packers offense as a whole has only turned the ball over 10 times this season. They're first in turnover differential. Now, QBs can only look good if they have someone who knows how to catch the ball, and Rodgers is fortunate enough to have Davante Adams on his sideline. Adams has 106 receptions for more than 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. He and the rest of the Packers receivers should have a field day against the Vikings secondary, which is 6th worst in the NFL, giving up 248 yards through the air per game. Aaron Jones in the backfield has been a nice complement to the passing game, averaging 4.4 yards a carry, and that should continue against the 5th worst rushing defense that the Vikings put on the field. Speaking of the Vikings, they are sitting just one spot out of the playoffs after that loss last week against the LA Rams 30-23. They're going to need a little help from the 49ers and the Eagles if they want to get into the playoffs, but they cannot afford to lose this game. Kirk Cousins and the Vikings offense is having a decent year, being top 10 in total offense and passing yards per game. However, with Cousins being out of this one, being put on the COVID list, Sean Mannion looks like he may be the starter this week, and that is a big downgrade for the Minnesota Vikings. Honestly, the Vikings, though, they are in the top half in a lot of offensive categories, but what has really held them back, and we alluded to this earlier, is their defense. Justin Jefferson, though, he's absolutely crushing it this year. This guy's got 100 receptions for nearly 1,500 yards on the season and 9 touchdowns. Mannion and the offense, they're going to have a good test this week against a top 10 secondary, but the Vikings will and might lean on Dalvin Cook in the running game against a bottom half rushing defense that the Packers have to maybe give them a shot in this one. There were thoughts that Dalvin Cook may not be able to go, also being on the COVID list. However, it does look like he will play. Even if he doesn't start, though, Alexander Mattison is a solid backup. However, let's talk about Cook for a second. This guy only played 11 games this season, has over 1,000 yards rushing, and averages nearly 5 yards a carry, including a 205-yard performance a couple weeks back on Thursday Night Football against the Steelers. So what's our best bet for Sunday Night Football? Well, the Packers are going to want to end this game early, and with Valdez-Scantling activated and maybe Randall Cobb coming back, Aaron Rodgers, he's going to have his whole arsenal at wide receiver in a revenge game. Remember, the Vikings, one of a few teams to beat the Packers this year. They won 34-31 on a last-second field goal earlier in the season. Look for the Packers to come out early, score often, and force Sean Mannion to have to beat them by throwing the ball. The Vikings, knowing on Sunday Night Football that they could make the playoffs by winning out, will force them to not hold back in this game, though, and throw the kitchen sink at the Packers, regardless of who's at quarterback. But they are going to have to lean on Cook in this game for a lot of carries. And Mannion, let's be honest, he's going to make mistakes. Probably 2 interceptions at the very least. So we think the Packers go out, crush the Vikings in a spot where they can secure home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So with our final pick of NFL Week 17, we're going to take the Green Bay Packers minus 13 over the Minnesota Vikings. Now, we will be live streaming the Kansas City Chiefs and the Cincinnati Bengals game on Sunday at 1 p.m. So join us live for some Week 17 play-by-play and red zone updates. In the meantime, go ahead, check out our Patreon. If you're looking for a sports pick each and every day, it's only $6.99 a month. That link is below in the description. And while you're at it, head on over to grandstandbetters.com, become part of our family, and start living that grandstand life. But as always, sit back, relax, enjoy NFL Week 17, and we'll see you live for the Chiefs and the Bengals.